I'm the Vice President of Marketing for MarcomCentral. We are very excited to be hosting this webinar today with Rod James from Orlando Health, Building Your Brand. It's a really interesting use case, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. I just want to take a second and just tell you a little bit about who we are and why we're doing this. The whole thought process behind this is this to be an educational experience. We're certainly not here to pitch you a product. Rod is one of our customers, though, so I just want to give you a little bit about the company and why we do these webinars. Rod, if you can advance to the next slide, that would be great. So, you know, we've been doing these now for a while, and we have monthly webinars, and the whole idea behind it is to really provide a little bit of thought leadership and education. You know, we've done some with research groups like Forrester or Gartner, and those all go really well, but the feedback that we've gotten is that folks were really looking for more tactical examples, some real-life experience that they could take back and actually do something with, and that'll really help them in the day-to-day. So that's really the idea behind why we're doing this and why we've invited Rod here today to talk about what his experience has been with the branding issues that Orlando Health has faced. And you know, we recognize there's a lot of difficult choices out there for you guys. The marketing technology space is getting more and more confusing. There's certainly a ton of solutions, and the field is growing every day. So it makes the decision making a bit more difficult. So our hope is to provide a little more education to help you with this. We'll continue to do these. We certainly encourage you to visit our website. We're at marcom.com. If you subscribe to our emails, we'll be sending information on the next ones. Again, our plan is to do this every month. We're also doing some regional events, which will be educationally based as well. So if we're coming to a city near you, we can certainly let you know about those as well. You can move on to the next slide, Rod, and then I'll pass it over to you. And just a little bit about us as a company. You know, MarcomCentral, we've been around since 1999. We've certainly weathered the storm in the MarTech space. You know, grew up as a software as a service based enterprise software, which was really where we found our footing and our strength. You know, we're about 76 employees, most of which are all based in San Diego, California. I have the luxury of being in New York, so I'm looking at rainy weather today. I think they have a little more sunshine today, so I wish I was out there. We have about over 400 customers serving over about 1 million users. And you know, we have several of the Fortune 500 as part of our customers. We encourage you to come to our site. You know, if you're interested in the product, there's something we can tell you about it. We certainly are eager to have a conversation. But again, the whole intention of today is not to be a pitch and not to be a demo for you. It's really about, you know, taking a real use case and giving you hopefully some educational content you can take back and do something useful with. But please visit us at marcom.com. Okay, that being said, I want to introduce our speaker for today. And we're very excited to have him here. So Rod has been a wonderful customer and a good partner. And we've hoped that we've given him some help through this process, but it's really been his doing and his initiative along with his team that's helped him to kind of solve the challenges at Orlando Health. So Rod James is a manager of brand marketing at Orlando Health. He has nearly 18 years of experience in the field of marketing and brand management with Orlando Health for almost 3 years. He's currently working on developing and executing integrated communication efforts that enhance the Orlando Health brand. He's very passionate about brand management. You'll certainly hear that come through today. And of course, compliance as well. So a big issue that's facing a lot of marketers today, including myself. Rod is also responsible for directing consumer and business-to-business brand planning and campaign execution of the Orlando Health corporate brand and endorsed brand compliance. So please welcome me and welcoming Rod. And Rod, thanks again so much for taking the time today.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you for the opportunity to present our situation when it comes to building our brand. Again, I'm Rod James, Manager of Brand Marketing. I do support the corporate goals by developing and executing the integrated communications really designed to promote Orlando Health and its services. I'm here with Val Garcia, who is responsible for maintaining and building our brand asset database, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, but as a key component in what I think building our brand. Today, what we're going to do is focus on the foundation from which the external communications are built. But before I get to that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Orlando Health. We are a not-for-profit healthcare organization. We are really made up of community and specialty hospitals. So we have 8 community hospitals and then specialty hospitals such as Arnold Palmer Hospital and UF Health Cancer Center, as well as a Heart Institute. We're also made up of physician practices across the 4 counties. We have outpatient centers made up of about 15,000 team members, and we serve over 2 million residents in about 4 counties. We have a visual here that really shows our brand presence in the community. It's a visual representation of really what we're made up of. And we truly believe that, we call it synergy care here, but there are a lot of access points and interactions with our brand. We do, again, have outpatient services, hospitals, what I call diversified businesses, which I help take to market if it's not part of service lines. Service lines being really the cardiology, neuro, heart, etc. And we also work on business relationships within the community with partnerships. We have a pretty significant partnership with YMCA of Central Florida. And really just the takeaway with this is you can see there are a lot of access points, a lot of interactions with the brand. And we believe that through consistent high quality branding with all of these areas, our reputation as a healthcare leader continues to excel and to be recognized, and it really helps to build our brand. So the organization as a whole I covered. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our brand division, and that's where Val and I live. We do provide the foundation and resources to ensure the integrity of the Orlando Health brands. And the reason I say brands there is we do have a leading brand, which is Orlando Health, but our community hospitals fall under the Orlando Health brand, but we do have the other brands such as Arnold Palmer Hospital, UF Health Cancer Center, and those all fall under the umbrella of Orlando Health, but they are considered their individual brands as well. We are in strategic communications, and within the brand division, within strategic communications, we really cover 4 areas of brand. We have brand strategy and governance, brand development and management, brand innovation and implementation, and then brand marketing and communications. As I mentioned, we're a large organization, so we found that we had to develop these 4 areas that really allow us to communicate, protect, and build the brand. The next thing that I wanted to show you is really a simplified graph or chart as to what we do. And really our purpose is to build and protect our brand within the brand division. And we have 3 kind of pillars or foundation points that I like to call out. We have brand management, brand empowerment, and brand marketing. And while I manage the external brand marketing efforts, I'm going to focus on 2 today. And those are 2 strategies regarding building our brand that I hope you find helpful. A little bit about our situation. So, I can go and tell you the beauties of the organization, the size, etc., and as far as building the brand, but I'm going to present to you the situation which presents to us some of our realities that we constantly have to keep in mind. What I like to show here is, our brand reality, which is the interaction of so many different components with our brand. Like I mentioned, we have close to 15,000 employees. We have multiple vendors and partners. So many people interact with our brand on a daily basis. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of brand building opportunities, which, that's the companies developing materials on our behalf, because while we have team members and a small brand management department here, we have vendor partners who help us with our marketing efforts. So there are brand building opportunities with all this interaction, but to no surprise, there's a lot of brand erosion possibilities as well. And that's what we really try to focus on, is to arm people with the opportunities and the tools they need so that the brand is not eroded. But when you see so many people interacting with the brand, we are faced with, like I said, brand erosion, a lot of questions about how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I get a logo? The other thing is, where do I go to get a logo? Where do I go to get an image? Or how do I know which imagery to use? We may also see non-approved vendor participation, and that is most likely by no intent or malice by anyone. It's just that we need to educate our vendors on the proper approval to become an approved vendor, because with that approved vendors, you will see later that we actually train them on an ongoing basis to make sure that they are considered a brand extension, really. We also sometimes see the use of old material by some of the team members by the marketing partners who think that they have the most recent materials, but they do not. We have recently shifted into a leading brand strategy, meaning that puts Orlando Health at the forefront. We were previously an endorsement strategy, where Orlando Health really just supported the community hospitals. But so we see a lot of people using some old material, which we, from a brand building perspective, we are actively out there looking and identifying those. We've done audits. We've probably done 2 to 3 audits within the organization and gathered tens of thousands of materials. And then we just go into correction mode from there. And I just wanted to add this clip art. It's, again, it's probably by no intent, but we by no means expect people that are not in marketing to do marketing. So they may think that clip art would be okay to represent the brand, but we try to really let us do our job, let them do their job. And while there may have been some pushback, because they've always done it that way, they've done it before, a majority of them are relieved because they don't want to do this. Team members, for example, will need flyers to promote, an event or a class. They may need a brochure. We have found a solution through our brand building efforts that really allow people to use brand consistent materials. So with that, I'm going to revisit our structure here and focus on one of our primary strategies, and that's brand management, and tell you a little bit more about that and how it relates to the brand building effort. So with so many people using the brand to communicate services, it's imperative that we do have a strong foundation with guidelines. And I can say that the root of all we do is brand development and management. This is really meant for anyone developing Orlando Health materials, both internal and external. Within brand management, the development really consists of brand standards, both visual and written, brand guidelines, very detailed, which I'll show you a screen capture there, but it tells you everything about how to use a logo, how to talk, etc. It's just a really good, rich resource for anyone interacting with our brand to actually do so in a correct manner. And again, it's not just us developing the collateral materials. We have multiple vendor partners, multiple printers, multiple agencies really acting as brand and marketing extensions of our department. Our brand development and management team also, while we have a leading brand, we have a lot of logo development activity going on. So, for example, if we are showing our community hospital, one of them is ORMC, which is Orlando Regional Medical Center, that locks up with the Orlando Health logo. We also have business units that will need lockups there as well. So the reason I bring this up and elaborate on that is it is so important for people to have the correct logo, and we don't want them building it themselves. That is something that the brand management team does on our end. We also have asset guidelines. For example, what are some colors that they can and cannot use? When to use them too. Imagery parameters. We have an entire section on what type of photography to use, what not to use, how to crop. As you can imagine with healthcare, there may be some pretty real pictures out there, and we try to guide people as to when not to use those. We also have a lot of content guideline here, and this is one of our key features, which I'll show you our writing style guide. But just as important as the logos and the imagery we use, we really focus on content and copywriting and just really the writing style that we enforce as an organization for all of our partners to actually use. Within brand development and management, we have ongoing agency and vendor training. So like I mentioned before, they serve as extensions of our department. So the onus is on us to do quarterly reviews with them. We do in-services with them to give them any kind of updates. We ask for their input. We are really building it together. But we feel like it's our responsibility to train them, to give us a peace of mind, because they're out there working with the various departments and developing materials on our behalf. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of danger there, but again, a lot of possibilities. So we feel that training is one of our key elements here as far as building the brand. We also work with internal communications about brand changes. And the reason I bring that up is anytime we add something to the brand or come up with a new logo lockup, We went through some logo refinement not too long ago. We are constantly communicating that to the communication of close to 15,000 people. While not everyone will engage with using the logos, we still think it's important to really just show them the changes. And what we have found is that this really helps with brand engagement. They are giving us feedback. They're asking us for new things and say, have you thought about this? So it's really these tools that we're building it together due to the engagement of the team members. So in the brand development and management, all the things that I mentioned, I wanted to highlight a few things that would be of particular interest to you as you go out there and start building your brand. We realize the need for marketing partners, being the agencies, to handle large-scale projects, being the campaigns, the non-standard materials, really the large initiatives where we need someone to get out there and concept. So we know that they need guidance. So with that, we have developed a downloadable toolkit. It's the designer's toolkit that contains collateral templates, color guidelines, actual brand graphics, photography, and asset libraries. So they can go into this toolkit, which is available to them, and I'll show you how we provide access. But this is really a storybook as far as how to interact with our brand, and it gives them the tools they need, just as if it would be developed in-house by us. As I mentioned before, a consistent voice is just as important as our logo and imagery. We have a writing style guide that I believe is up to about 80 pages now. And that may seem daunting, but it's not intended as a full read. It's really intended to allow people to find an area that they're focused on, whether it's how to treat a phone number or how to treat an email. If we're doing AP style guide, or we do an AP style guide plus. So this guide really, really helps them, because what we have found is that if we just provide imagery and logos, our brand can be eroded and diluted if we don't have a consistent voice. So we thought it very important to dedicate a lot of time and resources to developing the writing style guide. And that's one of the things I'm most excited about, because I'm also going to share with you our profile content outlines, which marries the writing style guide. So I would just really stress the importance of a writing style guide here. We also have in the brand tool suite, like I mentioned, really the outlines and the templates for brochures, rack cards, any of the standard pieces that an agency may not be involved in. But if someone just says, hey, I just need a quick brochure or rack card about my particular service area, they now have the access, whether someone does it internally or externally. They can go in and find a template. They just fill in the imagery based on the imagery guidelines, write the copy, fill it in, and rest assured it's done in a brand consistent manner. As I mentioned before, we have detailed site information on our brand architecture. So all of these resources have been developed for absolutely anyone interacting with our brand. All of these should be reviewed and really in detail by anyone developing communication materials on our behalf. And we'll actually weave into our conversation with our vendor partners the last time that they've visited BrandSource, because this area in particular in our brand architecture tells a lot about not just the logo versions on how to use it, when to use an image versus a text-only treatment. Just a lot of details in there: colors, logo versions, logo use, the overview, brand architecture. Like I mentioned, the photography style guide. Anything or any question that you might have when you're interacting with our brand should be accomplished or addressed in these brand tools. A lot of work, and I would say, Val, probably over a year's worth of development has gone into developing these tools. But we felt it was so important to make sure that we start off on the right foot. So we have developed, like I said, a lot of assets and spent a lot of time on developing the assets for people to use. When we move into the next phase, we had to focus on access and user adoption. So one could say, well, I've developed all the information that we need and all the assets that we need, but we knew we couldn't just develop those assets and just let them sit there. In a sense, we had to market our brand assets. So that really allowed us to focus on access once we developed the materials for them to use. I'm going to focus now on the brand empowerment phase, or effort strategy of what we're doing to build a brand. So we have the guidelines set, just to recap, guidelines set, assets built, and then we've asked ourselves about those interacting with our brands, and not just working with agencies, but this brand empowerment goes to both the agencies and anyone internally who may not be working with agencies, but anyone working with our brand and building it. So we ask ourselves, how can they help build the brand? And the answer to that really is to make sure that they have access to the materials that we've developed, and that really empowers them to do it correctly. Now, I'm going to be honest, people may be tempted to do it themselves, and I think we can all agree that we've seen that. And what we're trying to do is approach those situations and remind people and tell people and introduce them to our tool that we have here in the brand division that will really help them speak in a consistent voice and present brand consistent materials. So also within brand, in the brand empowerment area, what I'd like to talk about is really the charge of this area. So we established the brand innovation and implementation area within the brand division, and it's really developed to maximize the use of brand approved assets and resources by all parties. And I want to stress again that we can't just develop them and just put them on a server somewhere and expect people to come. So we knew that we had to develop them, and then our second phase of activating this brand build was really to get in and figure out a way to provide access to it and get people excited about it. So our solution was, of course, an access tool, and this is where our relationship started with PTI. The online asset management system for brand users to easily access brand assets in our world is called BrandSource. We needed one centralized area for anyone to go to if they wanted an image, if they wanted a logo, if they wanted copy points, or any information about our organization. We want them to come to this area because we have dedicated so many resources to actually building this area. But the beauty of dedicating so many resources to this is that we really have a peace of mind that our brand is being represented out in the community in a consistent way. So again, the solution was an online asset management system tool that held the assets, but also what we focused on was developing a tool that we called marketing on demand for standard jobs. So imagine, if you will, someone needs a bio card for a physician, or a rack card about the service line that they're representing. Business cards, it could be flyers. We wanted an area where someone could go in and in an efficient way build the materials that they need in a brand consistent area. Now, this does not replace agency relationships by any means, but rather it further defines really the scope of their work. We're going to allow them to focus on the bigger issues and the campaigns and the concept work. There's really no need for me to use my agency retainer time to have them produce a production quality flyer or rack card. I want to allow them to do what they do best and allow us to develop a tool that allows our team members to go in and develop it, and they don't have to be a designer to do it. Now, with that, it's a pretty big, huge mind shift. It's kind of going into, one could argue that it's a self-service approach, really, and it's not just that, but that's some of the mentality which we have faced, and that's the effect of this. It's not all smooth sailing, I'm going to be honest with you, because now people have to shift their mentality, and they have to think, well, now I have to do extra work. I have to go in here and build this thing myself, and there's some frustration with that. There will be some frustration. We knew that going into it, but what we wanted to do is develop a tool and a resource for them that would really allow them to produce the materials easily. And I can guarantee you, while there may have been some frustration up front, and we continue to hear some stuff here and there, we take that as an opportunity to get feedback, and we build those assets together with them. Because if they want something, let's say they want a flyer with 3 images in it, if it's a request that a lot of people have, we're going to put it in there as a way for them to access brand consistent materials. And we also wanted to, we took into consideration all the questions that we got, and you'll see that there's a feedback section on our tool. We didn't take that as a negative thing. We took that as really an opportunity to understand that our team members are interested in being brand ambassadors. So I wanted to share this slide with you, because while we can build the assets, build a tool, what we cannot forget is the effect on the team members and the vendors using it, because there's an education to this. And what we had to do was really refocus the designers and writers to develop multi-use content and asset templates. So rather than creating one-off brochures, they're now focused a majority of their time on developing pieces or templates or pieces of copy that a lot of people can use. With that comes a lot of education about how yes, we used to produce everything for you, but now we are automating a once manual process. We used to have a creative services team, but like I said, we've involved them and refocused the designers and the writers' efforts to do a bigger picture work. Really, a selling point to this also is I will, with confidence say that it's reduced time to market with communication materials, because we don't have to go in and work with various agencies or vendors to develop a flyer if that's what they wanted to do, or they wouldn't have to do it themselves. They now have an opportunity to go in, reference brand consistent materials, and build something as simple as a flyer, and that's all they need. It's there, and it's really just an opportunity for them to get to market faster with anything that they need, because as we all know as marketers, we don't have a lot of time to get the material done. So we actually take it as an opportunity to get it to market faster. So I want to tell you a little bit more about this tool that we really rely on, and it's really our access strategy. We have a marketing on demand tool / asset management system. Again, we call it Brand Source, to allow team members and partners to, they can create standard materials online using the templates. So again, the designers are building templates and copy so that team members can go into the system, take a brochure template, and build it from there. They can take a flyer template. I don't think that we've perfected the ad units capability of this yet, but it is something that's up there. If we have ad units are never the same size, and I think that we'd all agree that it's hard to develop one ad unit that's going to fit unless you float it in a space. So we're working on that, but we do have, I would say, 1 to 2 ad units up there that a couple of divisions in particular can use and actually go to market with that. Business cards. We had a pretty significant opportunity to go to market faster with business cards. This tool is allowing them, again, to go in one place and get their business cards. We have it tied in with our HR department to make sure titles are correct and are ordered correctly. So business cards are also included in this, as well as access to approved logos, art, photography, and content, as I mentioned before. I'm going to show you a little bit about how the area is structured, or the site is structured. So in addition to building materials and having access to art and photography, they can print approved collateral materials that we've already put together. We have a shopping cart feature. They can go in there and boom, ready to go. The other key thing that we learned is that we provided a project request system via this tool. So again, we try to drive them one place that will help us keep the integrity of our brand, and that is our online asset management system. So I like to say that's a little bit of freedom with control. So someone might go in and say, I need to create a flyer. They do. They have the freedom to do that, but we have the control measures in place with the imagery that they can use and the templates that they can use. So what I wanted to do is show you now a little bit more about how we structured it. This is a picture of our homepage and our sign-in process. When they sign in, we are actually able to establish profiles. So those profiles dictate access to logos, which are not available to anyone. Don't get me wrong, we are not opening this thing up for anyone to have logo access. But they can request a logo to be sent, and what we are doing is we're keeping an eye on where the logos are going so that we can track that and make sure that we are really brand compliant. So I showed you before the brand guidelines in the asset libraries, the brand architecture, the writing style guide, the templates. Those are all available via Brand Source. And again, Brand Source is our online asset management tool, our marketing on demand tool. I've highlighted an area here. The brand guidelines are available. So whether it's a team member or a vendor partner, we encourage everyone to start here. And we actually ask them, the marketing professional, for example, if they've visited Brand Source lately, because we're trying to train people to use BrandSource as their first go-to. I want to share with you a little bit more about the structure of BrandSource and the key areas. And I do want to share that in the beginning, we spent countless hours on page structure. We were trying to figure out and anticipate how people would use this tool. So as I mentioned, we have close to 15,000 employees. Not every employee is going to use this tool, which I am totally fine with. But, you know, people represent the organization or a hospital. They may represent a service line. So we really dug deep, and we probably had, I would say, 20 to 30 different page layouts, structure layouts that we were concepting. And what we netted on is we took it back to simplicity, you know, and we thought about the internet. You know, how are people using the internet? They search. You know, we thought that this could be a quick use, no guessing. We call it our Google approach. People are used to this. People are used to searching the web, and they can actually search this tool as well. The other thing that we found in the beauty of search is that we help to dig deeper into our analytics to see how people are searching, because that's going to help us determine assets that we need to build, how to tag assets. So for example, someone might type in thoracic surgery, and if they don't know how to spell thoracic surgery, you know, we want to know how they're typing that in. Or, you know, we have a bunch of acronyms here, you know, and we need to figure out, are they using that acronym to search a particular piece that may be on here for print ready or building, you know, a flyer, for example. So we are using analytics. We will be using analytics to just be really smarter about this tool and how to build it in the future. So the takeaway here is that we have structured search as our hero component within BrandSource. Below, you're going to see 3 key areas. And what we wanted to do is show you those areas, because we knew that people just wanted to, you know, may want to just reorder. We develop a lot of materials that go through the process of being built, and rather than go back and figure out, you know, where did I order that thing, where did I order? So an agency might develop a brochure, but they're required to load it into BrandSource so that the reordering process can be just as easy. So for example, in the print ready, we have our corporate pocket folders. What we tell people there is, you know, we get a request for the pocket folders, or they may be using their own pocket folders. This print ready function within BrandSource allows them to go in, order the quantity that they want. It's a corporate pocket folder that they now can use, and we know that it is consistent because we developed it, or one of our marketing partners has developed it. And everything has to go through a review process before it gets loaded and approved into the system. So that's our print ready area. So it's not only the pocket folders, but it may be brochures, collateral pieces that have already been developed, and someone just may want to reorder it. We have some signs in there too. If there's an out of order sign, if there is a pardon our dust sign, we have it there ready to go so that they don't have to recreate it. We also have an area within Print Ready that I like to call vendor integration. It really allows for pricing predictability. You know, so you've gone in and you've ordered this corporate pocket folder. There's a shopping cart function to this, and they can actually go and check out. No longer do they have to just figure out where to get it and how to pay for it and which vendor to use. Once it's loaded into our system, we have some criteria in place, and we will assign that piece to one of our portfolio of vendors. And that's really based on the competitive pricing and the vendor expertise. And again, that, you know, then we may have a vendor that's absolutely perfect for developing pocket folders, and another vendor that has another expertise in another way. So Val and his team really go in and pay attention to that and assign the collateral piece over into that particular vendor. So in a sense, we have brand control even at the production stage once it leaves our area. Second area that we have here is design your own. Within this, as far as building the brand, you know, they're building their pieces. We have 2 options. Someone can go in and they can actually do a rack card that is data fed, so it ensures written style and continuity. You know, it's really built by pull down. So you can go into this area, and I'll show you on the next screen. They can choose their logo. We have imagery tied to that logo. And then they can build the content based on the doctor that they choose, for example, if they're doing a physician bio card. So someone can go in and develop this bio card that consists of consistent photography, imagery, logos, content, etc. There's also an opportunity within this area to do a design their own rack card. So they may just go in and say, I need a 3x9 rack card, and there's a blank slate for them that allows them to choose the photography. We have a photography library, the logo, again, tied to their user profile, because we don't give logo access to every single user, just to send and use around. So if someone is associated with one of our facilities and only that facility, chances are they won't have access to the entire suite of logos. The other thing is that we've developed here is when they're in there developing these on their own, we have it set up to where Val can receive an alert that indicates someone has developed something, take a look at it, so that we can make sure that it's brand consistent. I will say one of our struggles with this is how much do we let go? And we knew that with some with so many people involved, our task was to provide brand consistent materials, templates, etc., in an area that they can do so. And with that, we can't see everything. So we have also talked about the onus is on them to review the style, the writing style guide, to make sure that they're writing or using existing content. But we do have, as I say, all these alerts set up to where we could do a quick review, and Val will immediately reach out to make sure that everything is brand compliant. So I mentioned the bio card. So imagine someone goes in and they just need a bio card. We are rest assured that they're not going to a vendor to have this done 100% of the time. They can come into this environment, and if they want a physician bio card on, let's say, Dr. James, they can go in and they can pull down some information via their logo. They can pull down the website to be presented. Their image is going to be presented, and the copy is actually being pulled in from a data feed that is, Val, I think it's an Excel spreadsheet, that all that copy is already written, and they do not need to rewrite that at all, because especially with materials that represent our physicians and our services, we just want to protect that a bit and present it as you don't have to recreate the wheel here. Use the information that's already been developed. The third area in brand source, building our brand is so relevant to this third area, to where we provide the resource library. So I'm going to simplify it a bit, but a resource could just be an image that we use, that we have developed, that we have professionally shot, and we don't necessarily need for them to go out and shoot it themselves. It is here and it's ready to go for them to use. There's content in here, which I'm going to show you on the next slide. So within the resource library also lives, I would say, many pieces of corporate profiles, and those could be profiles based on Orlando Health. So our stats are there, the numbers of hospital beds that we have, the year of operation, whatever it may be, it's all in here, so that we don't have to have someone going around guessing or asking for the information that is now readily available to them. And this directly ties back to the speed to market that they are most certainly interested in, and they can have speed to market coupled with brand consistency now, because we have provided corporate content and profiles that really just allow them to not recreate the wheel. We have corporate profiles, we have service line profiles, there may be practice profiles, physician profiles, and we're constantly building that as well, because we have found that this is one of the most exciting areas, so that people do not need to rewrite anything. Let me show you a little bit more about the area of brand source, the homepage here. And again, I wanted to re-emphasize that we direct all conversations to brand source. We are here, we're picking up the phone, but we always weave brand source into the conversation. That's our way of marketing brand source and having them become familiar with the tool, because in the long run, it is going to help them. We are 100% confident of that. So what we also do is we have implemented a project request system in brand source. So if they were to go in and look at all of the rack card templates that we have, all the pre-printed materials that we have, any flyer shell that we have, our reality is that we may not have it in there because we can't anticipate everyone's needs. So we have an opportunity here for someone to start a request. So previously they may have sent an email or used another job tracking tool. We are driving everyone into brand source to first search for what they may think they need, and then if they don't find it, they can actually start a request. Additionally, down in the other area, you'll see that I have loaded here. The new project is the same. So we just wanted to duplicate that to make sure that people knew that they had the opportunity to request a project. They could revise a project. So they may have a brochure that they developed pre-brand source, and if they wanted it updated, they have an opportunity to go and say, hey, can you revise this, take it into the leading brand strategy that I alluded to earlier. Request a logo. As I mentioned, not everyone has direct access to logos, nor do we want that. And not everyone wants that responsibility. Because I will be honest, we have changed the logo and enhanced it over the last 6 months or so, and we want everyone to go to BrandSource to get the most recent logo there. Request and upload. If they have service line specific imagery that we may not have yet in the system, they can go into BrandSource and ask that we produce or we upload that material, those images, into their area within BrandSource. And the beauty is that we can lock down photography and content based on the actual user profile. So there might be some imagery that not everyone should have access to. We can lock it down based to a specific user group. The other area that we have here is request a photographer. And while that may seem minute, it's pretty big for us because we want everyone who might need, let's say they're shooting an event, or they may shoot a press conference, or something at their location, and they haven't gone through us or needed our help. We try to direct people over here into BrandSource to actually go in and request a photographer. So that way we know that there is consistency with the vendors that we use. Once all those materials are developed, we have a brand review process. Again, it goes to BrandSource, and all of our vendors are trained not only on how to develop the materials, but how to go through the review process. This gives us the opportunity to ensure that everyone's doing it correctly and to provide some feedback for them as they go through the brand development process. And it's really meant to guide and direct for them. So if we've provided access in an easy way, we're naturally going to get user adoption. What we wanted to do in BrandSource is have a global messaging module to communicate new items, updates, etc. This is also increasing adoption because they may not know that there's a folder available to them like I showed you before. So we will go in and promote in this area, hey, new corporate folders have been uploaded in BrandSource, ready for you to go. Now, if they're not in BrandSource, but they have been in BrandSource, we also have the ability to send messages to existing users, which ultimately will take them back to BrandSource and increase the user adoption as well. So I think through all of this, we're seeing a consistent use and growth adoption for BrandSource, which ties directly back to both brand control protection and building the brand. Because again, there are so many people out there using it. So we're almost finished here with the last couple of slides, but I wanted to tell you, so we've got this great tool. We have so many people using it, but what does it tell us? So we have implemented a brand intelligence area here with this tool that we are taking a look at. We want to see how people are using this and what they're using, when they're using it, are they downloading it, are they customizing it yet? And I want to say we're only going on just a year of having this thing live. We were in a beta phase before that, but we're seeing some good activity here, and we're actually paying close attention to the business intelligence area, and that's going to help us tell a story as to what people want and what they need. So, for example, business cards just happen to be one of the most used assets here. No surprise, logo is as well. That tells us that we really need to make sure that the business card area is functioning correctly, so that the highly trafficked area of business cards is operating and performing correctly. So just wanted to share some general numbers, by the numbers. While again we are an organization of 15,000 employees or team members, not everyone's going to use it. And I want to stress we don't expect everyone to use it because we have you can imagine we have a lot of different categories of team members here. So we've seen about 2,000 users, which is pretty good, and that's actually growing, I would say, weekly, and we're able to look at that through the business intelligence. We have approximately 2,500 assets in the system that consists of stationery, print-ready inventory, photography, content, logos. Getting a lot of good feedback as well as far as what people want, so we continue to build those assets. have about 100 dynamic pieces, and those are those areas that, like the bio cards, correct, Val, that people can actually build and use from the data that we already actually have in place. We've received about 7,500 orders to date through the system, which I think is pretty cool, using the shopping cart function and actually, giving people the tools they need to request, print, and get the orders, through this system. And of course, we've seen some value and efficiencies to this. Reduced external expenses, as you can imagine. Our time to market has increased because they now have a tool they can go directly and build it themselves, or request a logo themselves and get it to whoever whoever needs it. We've also seen some staff productivity, measurements here. And while we don't have hardcore numbers here, again, we have some of the designers and the writers focused on bigger, larger scale materials that a lot more people are using, as opposed to possibly just one-off materials. Now, that's going to continue to exist. We will continue to, when someone says, I need a brochure right away, that is our job, that is our response. And if it can be done on BrandSource, we're going to jump on that and get it done. But it's a strong tool for us. And next slide I want to show you, and this is, I believe, my last slide. So it shows you how we put it together, how we build in some of the numbers. But I think what's key for you all to know is, how did we get there? And I wanted to share some of the key drivers that we are looking at and that we used to build adoption of the actual materials that we have built. So we actually had a campaign. So we are true marketers. So just as we would market our hospitals and our service lines, we marketed this tool for them, for the team members, and for the vendors. And we did probably a 3-month series of road shows where we went out to each of the facilities and on the campuses, not expecting everyone to come to us. And I would say that that was key for engagement in those shows, in those road shows, that allowed people to take a break, go to the cafeteria, for example, in their facility, on their campus, and actually listen to what we have to say. We're leveraging internal communications as well. We have an intranet, and anytime we have an update on new materials, we will actually promote it via our intranet, which ultimately drives traffic to our tool here, which ultimately builds the brand. And we also have site promotions. I showed you that module. If there's something new, we're going to highlight it in BrandSource as well. Talked about it before, but I want to share with you the last two. We start every conversation with BrandSource, where we may have that on BrandSource. We're just trying to really weave that in so that they start to use this as a first resource. And I want to say that the project request system, this has really helped us, because when they have a request, we always drive people into BrandSource, and they may think that they need to do a project request, but chances are they're going to explore it a little bit, and they may find what they need. So that is what we have done that have really provided the opportunities for us to build a brand and ultimately have a peace of mind that is that's provided to us, so that when the marketing vendors and my other marketing efforts, once we go to market and activate our plans, they're doing so in a consistent manner. So that's it for us. I'll hand it back over to you.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Rob. What a wonderful presentation. We've gotten a number of questions in the chat, which is great. Thank you. If you guys have more questions, please put them in. We'll pick some key ones that I see as we go through this. And if we don't get to your question online here, we'll certainly reach out to you offline and make sure that we get your question answered. Some folks were asking if the PowerPoint was going to be available. We can certainly make that available to you. We'll make this webinar, we'll be posting it as well, so we'll send you an email on that. One just quick note, we've seen a few questions on the vendor. I know you mentioned PTI. PTI was our former branding. We're actually now MarcomCentral, so MarcomCentral is the product that BrandSource is built on. But all that being, no problem at all. We were PTI when you purchased it, so that's absolutely fine.
Yep.
Let's jump into a few of the questions. One, and this comes up rather often, a really good question is, what did you do for engagement? Like, how did you get folks to be engaged in building out the system, and not just the build out, but actually even utilizing the system? Like, were there certain things you needed to do to kind of get the user to adopt it, to be able to take advantage of all the things that were in there?
Yeah, and I think it's so key, because we have a pretty significant task on our hands to demonstrate ROI on this tool. And what we've done is, and I mentioned it before, but we did a few things. first of all, we weave it into the conversation so that people started to know our brand. And I think it's key for us to understand. We stepped back and we said, okay, this is a tool that everyone should use. We stepped back and said it's a brand that everyone needs to be aware of. So we marketed this thing, and we did that with the road shows. We did it in the conversations, and we did promotions with internal communications, and we just keep it top of mind for everyone, so that 2,000 people now having access to this, which they didn't. And I think at one point we had about 600 during the initial phase, and Val, correct me if I'm wrong, but it shot up and continues to go up to, like I said, we're over a couple thousand already, and it's purely a result of the road shows and the ongoing conversations. We won't let it go. We constantly talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's such a testament to your work and your team's work, is that you've pushed this thing so well, and you've taken the show on the road, and you've brought it out and gotten people engaged in it, and it's working, and you can see it by your numbers. So that's fantastic. A couple questions here on if a outside vendor was used to build the brand source site, is the site incorporated in your intranet, or is it an external site? I have a few different questions that came up just like that one.
Okay, I'll see if I can answer that. We actually, in working with Marcom, we determined what we could do, within the realm of the contract and the service hours. But because of our true nature of being marketers and designers, we did also bring in on Val's team some programmers to work both with Val and Marcom to figure out how we can make it our own. And from what I understand, and Forrest, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't necessarily need to do that. We took the extra step to really, what I call, make it our own based on the MarcomCentral platform.
Great, and that's part of what we pride ourselves on, is the ability to be flexible with it, and so that you can make it your own. I mean, that's the whole idea. Is it's got to work for what your specific needs are. There's a ton of questions here, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to get to all of them. But again, we'll certainly reach out if we don't get to yours. But there's a bunch on timing, how long it took to set up between planning and beta and training and going live. Yeah, and there seems to be about 3 or 4 of those I saw on timing. And what was the total process for you in that?
Yeah, I'll tell you that. I'll go back to the beginning. When I first got here, actually it's going on 4 years now, and we had some team members here that did all this stuff for us, developed the materials, but we had some changes that we put in place, and so I want to say we spent 3 to 4 months just working on building and working with vendors on getting the RFP out. And I'm sure Marcom will attest to this. It was not an easy RFP to answer. We actually went in and we thought of every single thing that we might need, but we also put the onus on the vendors who were participating in the RFP process to tell us what we're not thinking about based on their expertise, because the main thing I said is we are not a technology company. Now, I had done this before in a previous position with another organization, so I had some understanding of it. But the RFP, to get back to the question, the RFP process for us, and I would say it was extensive, probably took 3 months for us to build and choose. From there, gosh, Val, we're going on we just started year 3, I want to say. So of the relationship, so we probably spent a year outlining and building this thing. 8 to 10 months of, Val's correcting me, 8 to 10 months to actually build it. And like I said, we went through a lot of exercises as far as, coming up with the page structures, the idea of what we think people would need. We had to get leadership involved with this as well. A lot of technology, not issues, but opportunities. We have to get IS involved. And because we are a healthcare organization, that took longer. So 8 to 10. So we had a 3 to 4 month RFP process, 8 to 10 month development process, and beta I would say lasted for, I'm going to say 2 to 3 months, and that was a limited invitation to where people were invited to actually, log in, use it, tell us what they thought. Because the main thing that we did not want to do is produce this in a silo. We wanted to build it together, and that was actually our brand, our campaign tagline for brand source. It was building a better brand source together. and that just empowered our potential users to come in and give us advice. So, 2 to 3 month beta, and we actually just went live last April, full scale, and it is by no means finished at all, because while the system is up and running, part of my job is to, as a brand marketer, is to get out there and meet with those business units that may not have advertising agencies, see what they need, see if BrandSource can help them. If not, then I need to get out there and help them produce those materials as well. So it's been over 2 years, but we've been in market and available over almost a year now.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and we've seen it on our side where it's ranged anywhere on the short side of 3 months to get it up and running, up to a year plus, and it really depends on the requirements. But you guys, you did your diligence and you thought through it from the RFP stage on, and I think that kind of is why it's being successful, is because there was so much planning that went in. And I love the line of, tell me what I'm not thinking about, right? I'm not a technology company, so tell me the other things I should be thinking about, and you put that into your RFP process. I think that's really good. I'll do one more question and then we'll wrap it up. There are a bunch here. I promise we will certainly answer that. I see a few more on the presentation. We will be sending the presentation webinar out following the call, and we will definitely get to your questions. I'll use one on reports because I see a few of them here on the reporting of it, on who has access to the reports. Can the users see what's going on in the system? Like how does you showed some of the the metrics on the screen, Rod, but how does it work for the end users? Are they able to see kind of what the utilization is, or are you feeding it to them? How does that work?
Yeah, I can speak to that. We have really locked down lockdown is strong, but really the marketing team here, of just those who are involved with BrandSource and that are considered kind of the admins, have access to that reporting. And it's not to say that it's not public to anyone, but really no one else is interested in it. If they want to know, that's fine. We'll most certainly tell them. But we haven't seen a need or any request for them to actually see the reporting. We're using it, and to build the tool even further and figure out what's working, what's not working. I will tell you that each user does have the ability to go into their profile, and they can have access to their previous orders. Val, what else is there? There's previous orders, anything, and downloads, etc. So while it's not direct reporting, there is some information that they have access to there. How many times, where did they send the last logo, etc.
Right,
and the idea is really like that.
It helps you understand from a budgetary standpoint where you want to put your dollars, what's being used, what's not being used, right? So you get visibility into all that.
Absolutely, because we're not going to necessarily create I'll just use a bookmark as an example. If one person asks for a bookmark template to be loaded into BrandSource, to your point, that's going to take some resources on our end, so we need to do our due diligence to see if there have been any other requests for that, and that's how we can possibly use the business intelligence to see if that's something that we should produce as a template. It's not to say that we won't do it, because a bookmark, for example, would be pretty easy to do. But it's just something that we're going to your point, use in order to use our resources wisely.
Excellent. Well, we're right at the top of the hour now, and Rod, I really thank you for taking the time today to do this. I think it was a fantastic presentation. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll certainly be following up, and please visit us at marcom.com and subscribe to our emails, and we'll keep you updated. We'll be doing a lot more of these kind of things, and we do have a regional show event plan coming up starting from May, going to cities around the country.